Well, hello everyone. I hope and pray that you are well. I'm recording this on Friday, having just finished writing my sermon and just printed it off. It's on the sacraments. And I talk a lot more in there about the Lord's Supper than I do about baptism. And so I want to just kind of focus in on baptism as one of the sacraments as well. And there could be a baptism or two in our church in the near future. We're not exactly sure what those will look like. Maybe after all, we will have to resort to that idea about using a squirt gun and safely distancing. We're not sure. But regardless, we know that our order of worship includes paying attention to baptism. And how does your baptismal identity affect your everyday life? I often use at the baptism of infants a shorter version of a blessing for infants at their baptism, and it comes from the French Reformed Church. I also like to pour water as a wonderful, tangible reminder of just this earthly reality of the waters of our baptism. And this is the blessing that I'll often read over children, or parts of it. For you, little child, Jesus Christ has come, he has fought, he has suffered. For you, he entered into the dark shadow of Gethsemane and the horror of Calvary. For you, he uttered the cry, it is finished. For you, he rose from the dead and ascended to heaven, and there he intercedes for you. All this he was done for you, little one, though you do not know any of this yet. But we will continue to tell you this good news until it becomes your own. And so the promise of the gospel is fulfilled. We love him because he first loved us. And then here is the account that we find in Luke 3 of Jesus' baptism. When all the people were being baptized, Jesus was baptized too. And as he was praying, heaven was opened, and the Holy Spirit descended on him in bodily form like a dove, and a voice came from heaven. You are my Son, whom I love, and with you I am well pleased. And in that passage, there's kind of three movements that happen to Jesus in that text. And those three movements, I think, are also true of us in our own baptism. So, right, when Jesus was baptized, first heaven opens, right? And second, the Holy Spirit descends upon Jesus as a dove. And then the third thing is God says, you are my Son whom I love, with you I'm well pleased. And that we believe that in our own baptisms, that God opens the heavens of his love and his grace for us. And he gifts us, he descends upon us with his Holy Spirit. And then he also pronounces us his children, his sons and his daughters. Now, I don't think there's anything more important than for us as humans to hear that this kind of hear the sacramental voice of God in this passage, that kind of breaks into our lives and rearranges what we think about ourselves and changes our kind of sense of self-worth to God-worth. And so Henry Nouwen, he writes about this, and he talks about the still, small voice of love. He writes, many voices ask for our attention. There is a voice that says, prove that you're a good person. Another voice says, you'd better be ashamed of yourself. There's also a voice that says, nobody really cares about you. And one that says, be sure to become successful, popular, powerful. But underneath all those very often noisy voices is a still, small voice that says, you are my beloved. My favor rests on you. And I think that's the voice that most of us most often need to hear. Martin Luther often urged and said about himself, today I will remember my baptism. And so I hear him urging you and me, remember your baptism. Remember that in baptism, the heavens open, that God smiled upon you. And the Holy Spirit has been gifted to you. And that also the Father has declared, you my son. You are my daughter, whom I love. With you I am well pleased. The peace of Christ be with you all.